Isn't a state of perfect oneness boring? It's a question we're going to explore today with the help of AI. Before we do that, I just published a book on Amazon. It's called Course in Miracles According to AI. So it's on Amazon. I'll put the link. I've talked about it in other videos. I need to put the links on the videos, but so you can take a look if you're interested. And also send me your email if you want a PDF version. If you want to make a small donation, that's nice. That would be helpful. And I think it's a good book. It's the first time I used AI to write a book. And then I also published another book just now about Trump, MAGA. It's called The AI Verdict, Trump, MAGA, and the Future of Democracy. And it's basically me just prompting AI with questions about Trump and the political situation in the United States and the world. I think it's very interesting, and it has a lot of jokes in it. And both of these books have jokes, and I think it makes it a little bit more lively and entertaining. And I just started a new book on Jesus. One of the most interesting questions, that everyone is talking about, at least online. If you look on YouTube, the mythicist viewpoint has taken center stage, at least if you go down certain rabbit holes, on the internet. The biggest voice thus far is Dr. Richard Carrier. And I think he makes some very good points. And so the book that I am going to be doing is looking at the question and using AI to help really research it and really get at the evidence, and make it entertaining, make it an easy read, not too hard. Richard Carrier's first book on historicity of Jesus, it's not his first book, but his major work is pretty academic. It's challenging reading for the average reader. But then he did Jesus from Outer Space, which is as a more like a trade book, that is more for the average reader, for accessible to the lay reader. So that's what I hope this book will be. But anyway, getting to this question, isn't a state of perfect oneness boring? This is a question I posed AI. And I did this with Gemini. I used Gemini AI to write this. So here's what Gemini said. Isn't a state of perfect oneness boring? In responding to the criticism that a state of quote unquote perfect oneness might be boring, it's important to understand the concept of oneness as described in ACIM and non-dual traditions. Now, let's just stop there and just say that Gemini understands A Course in Miracles to be a non-dual teaching, but not everyone would agree with that. And it was across the board. A number of times, Gemini, without me even prompting it, said that ACIM is non-dual. It's a non-dual teaching, and not everyone would agree with that. Some people say, well, the word non-dual is not in the Course. How can you say it's a non-dual teaching if it doesn't mention non-duality or non-dualism? So this is a case where some people might argue with AI and say that AI is just taking the consensus opinion and saying that that's fact, and people might say, well, that just shows a bias, right? That there's a bias there. But the fact is that this idea that ACIM is not non-dual is kind of a minority opinion. You have Robert Perry and people like that in the Course community, which basically make the case that it's not necessarily a non-dual or not non-dual. It's not talking about non-dualism. This is a whole issue that maybe I should do a whole video on that too. But let's see what it says. Oneness in ACIM and non-duality. Not a conceptual or static state. Oneness in this context is not a state of absence or nothingness, as some interpretations might suggest. Beyond the mind, it's a realization or awakening to the fundamental interconnectedness of all things, a truth that goes beyond our ordinary perception of separation. Awakening to reality, non-duality, doesn't mean becoming emotionless or desireless in a robotic sense, but rather transcending the ego's limited view and experiencing reality in its true unified nature. This is all good. This is all pretty spot on, I would say. Experiencing fullness. In the state of oneness, there is no boredom because the sense of self, which often fuels the search for external stimulation to alleviate boredom, dissolves. I'm going to read that again. Experiencing fullness. In the state of oneness, there is no boredom because the sense of self, which often fuels the search for external stimulation to alleviate boredom, dissolves. Embracing life. It doesn't imply a withdrawal from life or a lack of engagement, but rather a different way of experiencing and participating in life, one where the illusion of separation is no longer the primary lens through which reality is perceived. Now, it kind of went back and forth there between being in this world, which is not, we're still in the dream, we're still in the illusion, right? And it kind of mixes being in this world in the happy dream, what the Course calls the happy dream, and being in reality, which is beyond this world completely, beyond duality, beyond perception, beyond separation. So we'd have to look at that. I think what AI is trying to do there is to try to address the different levels on which we might understand this question. Let me finish.
I want to go for a walk before it starts.
Okay, bud, we will. Let me just finish the video, okay, bud? We will, bud. No, let's all go. Just give me a moment. Okay, addressing the boredom criticism. Boredom is a product of the mind. The perception of boredom stems from the mind's tendency to seek novelty and external validation, which is a symptom of believing in separation. Oneness transcends boredom. When the illusion of separation fades, the mind is no longer fixated on the constant need for stimulation, and a deeper sense of fulfillment and peace emerges. I'll put this all in the description too, so you can read it on your own. Joyful participation in life. This doesn't mean that there is no joy or motivation. Rather, action and creativity flow spontaneously from a place of connection and purpose, rather than from a desire to escape boredom or fill a void. This is all good. This is all, again, this is all right on. This is the criticism that a lot of people have of spirituality in general, especially non-duality, which is, aren't you going to become like a robot, like an automaton? You don't have any emotions. You don't, life, why would life be enjoyable anymore? And the answer is it's more enjoyable, actually, because you don't have all the hang-ups anymore, right? So you can actually enjoy life that much more because the ego is not in the way. In summary, the state of perfect oneness, as described in ACIM and non-dual teachings, is not one of boring monotony, but rather a profound awakening to the inherent fullness, interconnectedness, and joy of reality. It's a state that transcends the limitations of the ego and its craving for external stimulation, leading to a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. So AI is not wrong to talk in terms of what we're experiencing here in duality, but also speak of what transcends it. But like the Course, AI cannot tell us what that looks like, right? It cannot describe it, cannot describe what reality is, because it's beyond the mind, right? Right now, we are in our minds. We are in the dream. We're still in the illusion of separation. So I think this is a really good response, and it's very clear, concise, one page, answer to that question. So I'm going to leave it at that. Keep it a little bit shorter today. I might do some more questions in future videos. Love to hear your feedback, anything you want to share, as always. And yeah, let me know if you want a copy of this book or the one I did on Trump and MAGA. And like I said, I'll keep you updated on the new book I'm doing on the historicity of Jesus. Doesn't matter. Remember that I asked the course that question. I asked AI that question. Does it matter if Jesus existed historically or not? And the answer is no. It does not matter, right? And I think when push comes to shove, most Christians, it wouldn't matter for them either, right? If Jesus existed historically or not, even though they might say that it would matter, but people would, they would find ways to understand things maybe on a deeper level, right? And I think making Jesus a historical person and going and thinking the Gospels are got the gospel truth can actually keep you more on the surface of things. And obviously, A Course in Miracles takes you deeper, right? It's taking you deeper into this journey, a mystical awakening journey. And anyway, so much to say about it all, so little time, and there is no time. But yeah, shine on. See you soon.